Hey, gun people. Well, so the New York Attorney General is going after the NRA. And I am not a fan of the NRA for a lot of the things that she brings up in this press conference about them using it for personal gain. However, how can an Attorney General in good faith go after the NRA because they're a nonprofit and not go after the Catholic Church, who has molested thousands of kids, paid out lawsuits, hid, obstructed justice, moved priests out of the prosecution zone, moved them to other countries that we couldn't get to them, and obstructed justice? And they're not going after them to take away their tax-exempt status, but they're going after the NRA. So let me clear this up, because I know I have some crazy people here who can't freaking follow the bouncing ball. The NRA is a corrupt organization run by money-hungry people, and the money that people give is going so they can live lavish lifestyles like LaPierre and the other idiots at the top of the chain. And they spend 75% on advertising and harassing people to get more money so they can spend on private jets, planes, suits, and other crap. That does not help gun owners. They have lost their way, and Pierre's been in there for way too damn long, and the whole thing is corrupt. But you know what? Nobody wants to listen to that. So, I'm no fan of the NRA, but I'm also no fan of government that gets to pick and choose who we want to go after. Because we don't like guns, because we're left-wing, liberal, New York idiots that think only government should have guns, because the people like her gets to have a gun, and she gets to have bodyguards with guns, and she gets to have the police with guns protecting her and making her a priority. So she doesn't want any pesky citizens having a gun. So don't think that this woman is some outstanding attorney and that I think she's doing a great job because she's doing this. I got no problem with them going after the NRA. I just think it's hypocritical and bullshit that she ain't going after the Catholic Church and a lot of other nonprofits. But as far as the NRA is concerned, hell, I hope she sends her ass to prison. Let's listen to this.
Annual financial reports with the Office of the New York State Attorney General, and the assets of such an organization are legally required to be used in a way that serves the interest of NRA membership and that advance the organization's charitable.
Oh, so she's going, her heart is in the right place, Rick. She's trying to protect the NRA members. Oh, isn't that nice? She's looking out for the membership. Raise your hand if you think that's why she's going after the NRA, because she thought she should protect and serve the NRA membership. You're a freaking idiot. She don't give a shit about the membership. She's using it as an excuse to abuse her power to go after an organization that she doesn't like. If another attorney general went after Black Lives Matter and said they paid for riots and they're a terrorist group and I'm going to go after them and they're a nonprofit and they get free money, you think that people wouldn't be upset and call that person mean names and racist and all the other names? Of course they would. But you know what? It's all right. We got multiple quota TikToks here covered, so you can't say anything.
Mission. However, as today's complaints lays out, we found that the NRA instead fostered a culture of non-compliance and disregard for internal controls that led to the waste and loss of millions in assets and contributed to the NRA's current deteriorated financial state. Not only were the NRA's internal policies repeatedly not followed, but they were blatantly ignored by senior leaders. The NRA's board's audit committee was negligent in its duty to ensure appropriate, competent, and judicious stewardship of assets by NRA leadership. Specifically, the audit committee failed to assure standard fiscal controls. They failed to respond adequately to whistleblowers, affirmatively took steps to conceal the nature and scope of whistleblower concerns from external auditors,
So everything she's saying is true and correct. So, I mean, it's kind of brilliant the way the left will always find a way to manipulate the laws and the Constitution in their favor. But she's pretty correct in everything that she's saying they did do. My problem is the Catholic Church did a whole lot worse than what the NRA did. And ain't nobody going after them.
And they failed to review potential conflicts of interest for employees. In our lawsuit, we outlined dozens of examples of these failures, many of which were led and perpetuated by the 4 individual defendants named in this lawsuit, who failed to fulfill their fiduciary duty to the NRA. They used millions upon millions of dollars from the NRA for personal use, including for lavish trips for themselves and their families, private jets, expensive meals, and other private travel. Wayne LaPierre, Woody Phillips, Joshua Powell, and John Frazier.
Send all their asses to jail. I'm all for, Rick, how can you say that? They're in the NRA and you're anti-gun and you're supposed to be pro-gun and you can't talk about the NRA, otherwise you're a communist and you hate guns. And shut up, you freaking idiots. The NRA's been ripping people off for too damn long. They don't get a damn penny from me.
Instituted a culture of self-dealing, mismanagement, and negligent oversight at the NRA that was illegal, oppressive, and fraudulent. They overrode and they evaded internal controls to allow themselves, their families, and favored board members, employees, and vendors to benefit through reimbursed expenses, related party transactions, excess compensation, side deals.
Excess compensation. Now, here's a problem. When does government get to say what excessive compensation is? Do cops that get to take home their car and not pay for gas or insurance or have to drive their car to and from work, is that excessive? Do cops that have private guards, there's DAs out there that have actual security teams. The DA don't go anywhere without a driver. They have a cop driving them, and they have cops providing security when they go to events and parties. Is that excessive compensation? When the chief of police of San Francisco PD retires after 5 years of service and she gets $450,000 a year in retirement. Is that excessive compensation? No, Rick, they're government and they're there to protect us, and if we only had more government, everything would be better. Well, that's because you're a freaking idiot.
And waste of charitable assets without regard to the NRA's best interest. The central figure behind this scheme was none other than Mr. Wayne LaPierre, the national face of the NRA, who was entrusted with running its day-to-day operations. Mr. LaPierre exploited the organization for his and his family's financial benefit.
Agreed.
And the benefit of a close circle of NRA staff, board members, and vendors.
Agree.
Specifically, Mr. LaPierre spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of the NRA's charitable assets for personal private plane trips for himself and his family, including extended family when he was not present. He visited the Bahamas by private air charter at least 8 times in an approximate 3-year period with his family.
8 times a private jet with his family on your donations. Rick, without the NRA, we wouldn't have a gun and the government would come and take all our guns. Without the NRA, the government ain't coming taking all my guns. Knock yourself out. I ain't paid the NRA. They ain't done shit for me. The NRA is not why I have a gun. Now, they've done, when they were new, like most organizations, when they start out, they have good intentions. And then you get people in there with power and money, and over time it goes to shit. Just like government. Except government never goes shit, because they print money, they raise taxes, they hold power to where they can just take things from people. So even though government does the same thing that these private businesses do, when you get money and power, the road leads to the same freaking place without some really tough restrictions or outside controls. That's why our founders did our Constitution, to control government, to restrict government, to make checks and balances on government, because they knew if one person, the president or Congress or the executive branch, got too much power, they would become tyrannical and get out of control. So they made it to where there's cross checks and they hold each other accountable, and one can't do a whole bunch without the assistance of the other two. Now, unfortunately, once you flood all three branches with left-wing idiots, then there's no controls. And that's the end of the country. Coming soon, guaranteed. Look at history. You better be prepared. And supporting the NRA isn't going to help you. Buying guns and ammo and exercising your Second Amendment rights and hold government accountable at every chance you can. That's how it's going to help. Anyway, if you want to go listen to the whole thing, it's on Fox News. It's titled, let's see what it's titled. New York Attorney General files lawsuit to dissolve NRA. Fox News. All right. We'll end that there.